everyone. Today in this lesson, we're going to learn how to solve 1 and 2 step equations. And maybe not learn, but rather review, because I'm sure you are already familiar with this process, but we'll just go over some examples just to be sure and perhaps show you some new tricks in solving. So first of all, let's discuss 1 step equations. Now, in the textbook, it starts with addition, subtraction, and so we skip those easy basic ones because I'm pretty sure we're good at that by now. So for example, like x plus 2 equals 7. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that we all know how to solve an equation like that. So let's skip to the harder types of examples where you have fractions in your problem. So look at part A. Also, make sure you get out your notes and write these examples down in your notes and follow along with me. So example A says x over 4 is equal to 5. So if we want to solve for x and get x by itself, x is being divided by 4. So what is the opposite of dividing by 4? Multiplying by 4. So what we're going to do is multiply by 4 on both sides. And one way you can think about it is to multiply by 4 over 1. So that would cancel out this 4. So you would have x is equal to, then 5 over 1 times 4 over 1 is equal to 20. You can always double check your answer by plugging 20 back in for x. So 20 divided by 4 is equal to 5. So that answer does work. For part B, we have t over negative 3 is equal to 9. So it's the same exact example, just different numbers, and I threw in a negative sign. So what we're going to do is multiply both sides by negative 3. It's important to include the negative and don't forget. So whenever you see a negative, your radar should be going off, like radar. I see a negative sign. I know there's something special I need to do with that and make sure I don't forget or ignore the negative sign. A lot of students will want to ignore the negative sign, but the negatives are so important. And if you ignore them, then you'll get the problem wrong. So once again, the negative 3's cancel. We're left with t equals negative 27. For part C, again, it's the same exact equation as these ones. It's just the variable is on the other side of the equation. So instead, we're going to multiply by 7 over 1 on the right side. Well, and you're still doing it on the left side. So this would be 42 is equal to C. Now you can leave your answer like that. That's fine. It's okay for the variable to be on the right side. If it really bothers you, you can just flip it around. C equals 42. All right, so let's look at D through F. What do you notice about D through F? Specifically, what kind of number is being multiplied by the variable? You see a fraction, negative 2/7, 2/3, and negative 4/5. So how do you get a fraction onto the other side? Well, some of you might be thinking, okay, well, if you're multiplying by a number, then you have to divide by the number. So divide by, don't write this down because this is wrong, negative 2/7. Well, not that the dividing by negative 2/7 is wrong, but it's just not the most efficient method. So what we want to do instead, erase that, is something that you learned in your pre-activity is that to take the reciprocal and also include the negative sign. So negative, multiply both sides by negative 7/2 because the inverse of 2/7 is 7/2. So times negative 7/2. And I'm going to put the 4 over 1 just because when I multiply a whole number by a fraction, I don't want to get the numbers mixed up when I multiply. So this would just turn out to be x equals, the negative sign carries out in front. 4 times 7 is 28 over 2, and then that reduces to negative 14. Another way you could think about simplifying this part is, well, look at if you can cross-reduce. Can you cross-reduce here? Well, 1 and 7 don't cross-reduce, but 4 and 2 do. So 4 goes into 2 twice, or 2 goes into 4 twice. So that means 2 times this would turn into a 1. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Okay, so same for part E. So you're multiplying the variable by 2/3. So if we want to get the variable by itself and move 2/3 to the other side, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, 3/2. Once again, I'm going to put the 14 over 1, and I'm going to go ahead and try to cross reduce because I see that 2 and 4 can cross reduce as 1 and 7. So then the problem is just 3 times 7, which is 21. Okay, and then one more of these. So for this one, you do have negatives on both sides of the equation. So you want to multiply by negative 5/4, the reciprocal, negative 5/4. Now, since the 8 is also negative, that means that the negatives are going to cancel. Two negatives make a positive. I'm going to put the 8 over 1. And then also I can cross reduce here with 8 and 4. 4 goes into 8 twice. So that turns into a 1, 8 turns into a 2. 5 times 2 is positive 10, since the negatives canceled. Okay, so that is our one-step examples. So these 4 problems, go ahead and write these down in your notes. Maybe pause the video, write them down in your notes, because these are going to show up on an exit ticket in class that you're going to do before you do the assignment. So you can pause the video, try them out, and that way when you go and do the exit ticket, then you can just put your answers in, because it'll be the same problems. All right. Or you can always just wait until class, but if you do it now, it'll be quicker. So two-step equations. So two-step equations means there's something that we need to do first before we move the number that's being multiplied by x. So in part A, that would be to subtract the 5. So we have x over 2 equals 6, and then multiply both sides by 2, or you can do 2 over 1 if you want. So that would be x equals 12. In part B, okay, so the x is on this side, so what do we need to do here before we multiply by the 3? We need to add the 7. Plus 7, plus 7, so you have negative 1 plus 7, or you can think about it as 7 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. And multiply both sides by 3, so you get 18. And then another step further is if we were to have to combine like terms before we do something. So here in part A, you have x's on the left side of the equation, so we can combine these like terms. I always like to underline the terms I'm combining, or maybe box them up. So 3x is equal to 21. Divide both sides by 3. You don't have to show that work if you can do that simple step in your head. Oops, not 21 again, 7. And then for part B, you have 5d minus 9d turns into negative 4d equals negative 16. And then to get d by itself, you want to divide by a negative 4. Since negative 16 and negative 4, the negatives cancel out, and you get 4 equals d. All right, and then we have some problems where we have to write out the function. So talking about input and output. So you know the output means the y, and the input means the x. Whenever you see output, that means y. So it says the output of a function is, remember is, what does is stand for? It means equals. So y is equal to 3 less than, so that means less than means flip the subtraction. So it's going to be minus 3, 5 times the input. So 5 times x, or 5x. Find the input, so find x when the output y is equal to 17. So all that means is that we have to plug 17 in for y and solve for x. So this should look just like the problems we were just doing in a two-step equation. So 17 equals 5x minus 3. Okay, so first you would want to add the 3 to both sides. So you get 20 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, and you get x equals 4. So that would be the input when the output is 17. Eventually, you'll get comfortable recognizing how many steps an equation will have. So this has 2 steps. You move over to 3, you divide the 5. If you can do this in your head, then great. But I always do recommend writing it on paper so that you don't make mistakes, especially with negative signs. So how about part B? This is the output of a function is 4 less than 4 times the input. Okay, so this is really the same question. So y is equal to 4 less than 4 times the input. So 4x minus 4. Find the input when the output is 3. So we're going to plug in 3 for y. And this is a two-step equation. Add the 4. So you get 7 equals 4x. Divide the 4 on the x, and you get x equals 7/4. Now, you can leave your answer like this. That's fine. When we get to algebra and geometry and all those higher classes, improper fractions are more common because they're easier to work with. Okay, and then we have a word problem. So if you're taking notes, well, you should always be taking notes, but don't feel like you have to write all these word problems down. Just write the important numbers. So as a scuba diver descends into deep water, the pressure of the water on the diver's body steadily increases. So if you know anything about scuba diving, the further down you go, the more pressure the water will have on you. So you have to have more caution the further down you go than if you're closer to the surface of the water. The pressure of the surface of the water is 2,117 pounds per square foot. So this is the units for pressure. Okay, that's all that means. It's a rate, pounds per square foot, and it changes as the water goes down. So the pressure increases at a rate of 64 pounds per square foot for each foot the water descends. Write an equation to represent the situation where P is the pressure and D is the depth. So the pressure, which variable would be the independent variable and the dependent variable? So which variable, like if you were putting this on an XY axis, would go in the X? That's your independent variable. That would be depth in this case. And then the dependent variable would be pressure. So as the depth increases, the pressure will also increase. So the pressure of the water depends on the depth that you're in the water. So we'll put D, this is like your X variable, and P is like your Y variable. Okay, so the equation then Y equals will be P equals, and then you're starting with the 2,000 pounds per square foot, so 2,117, and you're increasing, so adding 64 pounds per square foot per foot, so plus 64D. So that would be the equation. So it's the amount you start with plus the rate. So starting plus the rate. Okay, so we've done some examples where it's decreasing, like how much you have left, and that would be like subtraction, because the amount you have left is decreasing. In this case, it's increasing. And then part B, find the depth of which a diver experiences the pressure of the 8,517 pounds per square foot. So this is the pressure. So we would plug that in for P in our equation. And you actually, I think you should be able to do this without your calculator. I want you to try it. So 8517 equals 2117 plus 64D. So the first step would be to solve for D is to subtract the 2000. So they both have 17, so that goes to 0, 0, 4, and 6. And then 64D. And then if you divide both sides by 64, what's 6,400 divided by 64? It's 100. And then we always want labels. The depth is in feet, so 100 feet. All right, so that is all. Tomorrow when you come into class, you will take an exit ticket and you will do your EduLast assignment. All right, have a great day.